welcome to Ask a Reporter on this lovely Friday, the very last Ask a Reporter of the whole year. I'm Amelia, and this is Nat.
That's right, I'm Nat.
I stole your line. We'll do that again. I'm Amelia.
And I'm Nat.
There it is.
There we go.
So this is Nat's very first Ask a Reporter. So give him a big round of applause. I assume you're all clapping right now as well. Thank you. So, your story this week.
Yes.
All about Venice.
All about Venice and all about the recent floods in Venice, and also exploring why Venice was built and how it was built, and why what's happening today is coming about as a result of how it was built.
It's very cool. Very interesting story. I didn't know much about this. Have you been to Venice?
I have never been to Venice. Have you been to Venice?
I have been to Venice once. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It wasn't flooding when I was there, which was good.
That's good.
It is a little bit smelly.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
I have. And especially because of the way that the canals work. A lot of the old sewerage systems go into the canals. So they do need the tides to bring the water in and, bring the water back out again, so that the sewage can get recycled. So that the water can be changed over, basically. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem with Venice, is they do need the tides, but when the tides become too big, then they get those king tides or aqua alters.
You're an expert, which is exactly why we've got you here. Well, it's time for the test.
Yes,
because you guys sent heaps of questions.
All right,
in
fantastic.
And keep them coming. Also, the stinkiness, I think there was something you said right at the end or towards the end of your story about which we'll get to, the method they're considering or they're working on for a long time to try to maybe stop the tides. And you said something and I thought, oh no, that's going to make it smellier again.
We are going to talk about that for sure.
Good.
That's called the MOSA project.
We've definitely had some questions about that. All right, so let's kick things off with Heymin from Chatswood Public School. Hopefully I've said your name correctly. Heymin, what was the highest flooding rate in Venice?
The highest flood Venice has ever got.
Sorry, just
we
wanted
do.
to say that. I forgot about that. Cool.
The highest flood Venice has ever seen since records started. And the thing is, records only started in Venice about 150 years ago. But since records have started, the highest flood Venice has seen was in 1966. So that's quite a while ago. And waters rose to 1.94 metres, which is taller than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Taller than most adults, really, unless you're a really, really tall adult. So floodwaters rose really high that year, and that's the highest that they've been in recorded history.
So that meant that a lot of stuff was underwater then?
Yeah.
So that's the height from the ground up sort of thing, do you think? At its highest, I suppose.
I think it might be the height from where the water usually sits.
Where it normally sits.
I think.
Yeah. So definitely would have flooded a lot of those landmarks and things. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It does happen a lot, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And Venice floods most years. In fact, some years it floods more than once. And it usually happens in the winter. It's very common for Venice to flood during the winter just because of the seasonal tides. They're higher in that time of the year.
There you go. All right. So, let's go for... I don't know if this is related to something in particular. You'll know, Nat. This is from Adwick, from Darcy Road Public School.
Hello.
How does the wood become hard instead of soft? So is that the pylon wood we're talking about? Okay,
that's
so
right.
can we recap for those like me?
Well, let's have a quick look at the pylon wood, just so that we know how it works. Because they're not wooden planks that go this way. They're actually wooden piles that go in that. See, so they go into the ground. And the way that they were built to begin with was the wood was buried deep into the mud, and it was buried so deep that it didn't have access to oxygen. So what wood does when it doesn't have oxygen and it's surrounded by waterlogged mud or dirt, is it becomes petrified. And petrified is this process that happens where all of these dissolved minerals in the water replace the fibres of the wood until there's no wood left, and it sort of becomes stone. So that's the process that happens over hundreds of years. Here we go. Here's a picture of it now. And it can turn into any type of stone, from oh well, whatever the minerals are, but this one looks like it's got a bit of marble or quartz in it. But that can happen to wood when it sits in mineral-rich mud without access to oxygen.
Wow. That is so cool.
It's pretty cool. I want to bury a piece of wood in
there. I was just thinking that.
Come back in a few hundred years.
Mineral-rich mud. It's like a time capsule. Except no one in the future will know what you've done unless you leave a note.
Write your name on the wood.
Oh, that's a good idea. Maybe. I'm not sure it's a good idea. Okay, so Ruby from Tamworth Public School would like to know, is Venice flooding because of climate change?
That's a great question. And people, yes, a lot of people do think that Venice is flooding because of climate change.
Flooding more or altogether?
Probably flooding more, I think.
More, yeah.
Venice isn't just flooding, it's also sinking. And so what's happening is Venice is only sinking by a couple millimeters a year, I think I read. When scientists did a couple of tests between the year 2000 and the year 2010. So it was a 10-year practice, and they found that it was sinking just by a few millimeters a year. But because it's sinking and the waters are rising, it makes that the result is like a lot more intense, so it looks a lot worse because both are happening at the same time. So yes, I'd say that a lot of people think it's happening as a result of climate change, but also because of the way that Venice was built on top of the mud, really.
Okay, so I think you might have kind of just answered this next question a little bit there too. Charlie from Westbourne Grammar School, is Venice sinking or is the water rising?
Both.
So both.
Great question, yeah, fantastic.
So did I don't think I've asked this one. I think I asked this. Haley from Chatswood Public School has asked the same question as me. I'm going to ask it anyway. Does Venice flood often?
Yes, it does, yes. Well, from the sounds of things, Venice, floods quite often, but it's not very often that it floods as big as it did a couple of weeks ago or as big as it did back in the 1960s. Those are pretty rare and they're pretty devastating. Usually it sort of only comes up to people's knees, maybe a little bit higher, and it's still uncomfortable, but it's not quite as dangerous as some of these bigger aqua alta floods that people are talking about.
Have any of you guys been in floods before? Let us know. Be interested. Have you?
Floods?
Yeah.
No, great question. I don't think I have.
I haven't either.
I've just been through a few cyclones and earthquakes, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
But no floods, no.
So Nat comes from Darwin.
Yes.
Nat, your family's in Darwin.
Yeah.
Do they have cyclones?
We do. We have quite a few cyclones in Darwin, and sort of like Venice, we expect to see at least a cyclone every year, but sometimes we don't get one, and then other times we get one that causes quite a bit of damage. So Queensland also gets quite a few cyclones.
Queensland gets a lot too. Yeah, of course, I suppose Darwin would too, because it's the tropical kind of weather and stuff in that spot.
Yeah. Along
the coast up there. All right, so speaking, Nat, of Darwin, I think we've got a very special question.
Oh.
From Sam.
Sam?
At Nakara Primary School.
Hello, Sam.
Who's Sam?
Sam is my brother, and he's in primary school, so I'm really glad he's written in a question. What's he saying?
I love it. Isn't that exciting?
That is pretty exciting for me.
Did you know because you just saw Sam Nakara Primary School, or did he tell you specifically he was going to watch and write in?
I told him that if he wants to know anything about Venice, he should go on the Ask a Reporter website.
I love it. That's great. Well, Sam has written a lovely question. How long will the MOSA project last, which is what you were talking about before? And what is the government doing to protect the city from flooding other than the MOSA project? So can you tell us first again like a little bit more about the MOSA project for those who might have forgotten? That's great.
So Sam's asked a very difficult question here, but I'm going to try and explain quickly what the MOSA project is, and it's basically Venice's idea to stop floodwaters from causing as much damage as they've been doing in Venice. So I think we've just got a short video that explains what the MOSA project is, and this is 2 cameras on either side of the lagoon, and you can see there are these walls that are coming up and they're stopping the water from getting through, and see they're getting quite high. So this is the MOSA project, and it's a series of 78 underwater gates, that are filled up with water, and then when they want to rise to the surface, they blow air into it so that it sort of floats like a floaty, and then it floats to the surface and it stops the water from getting into the Venetian lagoon. So this is their idea. They've been working on it for like 30 years. And so it's been a long time coming. And people aren't sure that it's going to work, but everyone's sort of hoping that it will. Because what it will mean if it works is that Venice won't have to flood as often as it does. So that's what the MOSA project is in a sort of quick nutshell. And
it's cool to see.
And so I guess Sam's question
how
also
long
asks,
will it last?
Yeah, how long will it last? It's difficult to say, because when they first built it, they sort of built it on old information that they were just figuring out at the time. And today we sort of, scientists now know a little bit better how fast sea levels are rising in certain areas of the world. So now they sort of, they're not sure if the MOSA project's quite capable of keeping out as much water as we might like. So the MOSA project might only last 20 or 30 years, but people are still welcoming it, because they're saying that if it buys Venice 20 or 30 more years to think of a new, better idea, then that might be a good thing. So it's sort of their last hope at the moment, but hopefully we get some more big thinkers to think of other ways to save Venice.
Because it would be such a pity to lose it. It's I did say it was smelly earlier, but it's also a really beautiful place.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
And a lot of history.
Yes, a lot of history. Well,
a lot of history.
Has anybody asked about the history of Venice?
Well. Thank you again, Sam. What a cool brother you have. He's awesome.
He's a pretty cool brother too.
No. All right, so I was going to check that, but probably. But the thing is, I did see something from someone talking about Venice being known as the floating city. Yeah. And so maybe we could talk. That was Fatima from Campbell Primary School. So can we talk a little bit about how it got that title and how it became the floating city, maybe?
It's interesting because Venice is called the floating city, but it's not really floating. As we know, it's sitting on heaps of wood that sits on top of heaps of mud. So really it's not floating, but it just looks like it's floating because it's in the middle of the lagoon, in the middle of the sea, basically.
Oh, can I just interrupt you? I've got Max and April from Farrer Primary? Primary? I don't know, I'm terrible, but Max and April. Yes. What was your guess of pronunciation?
Oh, great
Farrer?
Farrer
Primary.
Anyway, they're probably laughing right now.
I bet you're laughing a lot. Max and April, why did they build the city of Venice? Does that kind of give you a little bit of a question there? Yeah, that's great. It's a good one, guys.
The city of Venice has a very interesting history because it happened more than 1,500 years ago, right at the end of the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire were massive. They were all over Europe and they owned a lot of land. But what happened was there were a couple of other groups that sort of wanted to chase people out of their land because it was fantastic farming land. And those farmers ended up running off into the ocean and finding these 118 little islands that Venice now is, and they decided to build on top of it. So the reason why they built on top of it was because to escape all these warriors and these people who were invading their land, they wanted something that they couldn't cross. So water is a great natural barrier, sort of like, think of an old castle with a moat, sort of like this one here. It's a lot harder for an army or a group of angry invaders to cross a big body of water unless they have a lot of boats. And so if they have a lot of boats, you sort of have a better warning system, and you sort of can see them in the distance and it slows them down a lot. So that was part of the reason they built there, and also it was just to get away from the mainland because sadly their land was taken away from them, and they were basically a whole group of refugees that had to build their entire lives from the ground up.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Really interesting facts, Nat. Okay, so let's see. Question here. Okay, I have Fox. I think somebody's put a fake name. How many tourists visit Venice each year?
Well, quite a few, actually. More people visit Venice than the entire population of Australia. So Australia is about 24 or 25 million, and 30 million people visit Venice every year. So think about everybody in Australia and then some, all cramming into a tiny place like Venice every year. So it's quite a few people.
That's crazy. Okay, so I have, let's see.
Whoop, that water's just risen a little bit. Sort of.
Oh no!
Uh-oh, go back down. Get the MOSA project in here.
We're gonna be flooded.
Yeah.
Oh man, we better speed this up. All right, let's see. Have we answered this one?
Why did people build Venice on top of wooden planks? We sort of did. That was from Caleb. Yep.
Or it was obviously a very good question. Okay. Do you know any other ways that they're thinking of to help, like, stop the flooding? You kind of had that before.
Yes.
Yeah, you do? All right.
It's
So I have
quite
Amalia from Luara Catholic Primary School. Thanks, Amalia. Are there other ways to help the flooding, like building a wall around Venice, for instance, is what Amalia has suggested?
That's a great idea. But it's also going to be quite tricky for a place like Venice that needs those tides to go in and out, because they have live sewerage, they have fishermen, basically all of the water that comes out of Venice, all of the dirty water goes into the canals. So they need those tides to take the water out and then bring fresh water back in again. So if you built a wall around Venice, the water would probably get a lot more stinky, I think. So I'm not sure if that's their best idea. I also found some pretty creative ideas too. I had a look at the questions list, and Aidan suggested stone columns underneath Venice to prop it up.
That's cool.
It's very creative, but Venice is just so heavy that it'd be very hard for people to build stone columns underneath the ground to lift it up, I think. And Cyrus also suggested that we make Venice float. Now, once again, that's a fantastic idea.
I saw that.
And if we could make it float, I think that'd be a fantastic idea, but it's just so heavy again. And because it actually sits on top of mud, and there's so many heavy stone buildings on top of it, I think those are really tricky engineering tasks, but you never know. One day there might be a really clever person that can just figure out a way to make Venice float. Yeah. So there you go.
Cool. So maybe it could be one of you guys.
Never know. Yeah,
Never
that's
know.
right. If you have any great ideas to save Venice.
So, Jagger and Ruben from St Patrick's Primary School, Geelong West, would like to know, when will Venice eventually sink? I mean, you can't know that exactly.
No, it's a tricky one.
But is there a prediction? And Isabel from Epping Heights Public School also wants to know, when is it predicted for Venice to be a deep underwater lost city? I have a real thing about, like, lost cities. I think they're really fascinating. I mean, everybody does. It's like that whole Atlantis myth, isn't it? Yeah. If you've ever looked into that, it's a bit fun.
Yeah. That's a great question. And I've got to say, I don't think anybody really knows, especially not me. But I wonder how long it might take Venice to completely sink. Remember, it's only sinking.
Are people worried that is the eventual, potentially the thing that could happen in many, many hundreds of years?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. Because it's only sinking by such a small amount, people are worried that they might not be able to live there comfortably anymore, because things like the ground levels of some homes might have water in them. But in terms of it sinking sort of like really fast, I don't think anybody knows if that's going to happen or not. It's just too hard to tell. Yeah,
and you'd imagine if it's just going up like the water level is around us right now, well, they'd probably be underwater pretty quickly. But if it's going up quite slowly, then I'm sure that Venice will hopefully exist for a long time.
There's one interesting thing, and that's Venice sits on top of its own tectonic plate. That's sort of... There are two big tectonic plates, and they're the things underground that basically all of the Earth's crust sit on. And there's the big Eurasian tectonic plate and the African tectonic plate. But a tiny piece of the African tectonic plate, which Venice sits on, broke away from it, and now it's its own tectonic plate. And what it's doing is it's crashing into the Eurasian tectonic plate. I think this is when I was researching, and when two tectonic plates meet, one has to go on top of the other. And what I read was that it's called the Adriatic plate, is actually going underneath the Eurasian plate, but very slowly. But that's also...
What does that mean, though?
It means that slowly it causes the ground to go down.
Oh, so it's another cause of the sinking.
Another cause. So there's quite a few things playing into it. Yeah, but they're also slow, and but there's quite a few reasons why. Yeah.
That is crazy. Okay. Let's see. Fees that go to Venice? Is that a thing?
It's a new thing.
Oh, okay. That's from Stanny. Stanny? From Jamon?
Great. Hello.
I do, because you didn't put primary school or anything. I don't know if that's a place, but Stanny.
Great. Well,
how
hello,
much money
Stanny.
are the fees that go to Venice?
So Venice brought in new fees because so many people were visiting, but not staying over the night, which is a bit of a problem for a place like Venice because...
Oh, like that.
Yeah,
I was so confused. I was still stuck on
like an
building
entry
and
fee.
stuff. The entry fee. Yes, I remember this. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so
you lost me, Stanny. I'm back.
The entry fee is 10 euros, or that's about 16 Australian dollars. So, yeah, that's sort of like...
They didn't have that when I went.
Well, that's pretty good. I think it's only pretty recent.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the price of a movie ticket or something like that. So
in Australia.
It sort of is just a bit
less.
of... Maybe, yeah. It's just a bit of money.
It's expensive going to the movies now.
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah.
That's 480 million on 30.
Wow, there you go.
What's that?
So there's actually one rule that I found, was that if the people who are coming to Venice don't stay over for very long, then they have to pay the entry fee. But if they're staying in some hotels, if they're buying food there, if their plans to stay there more than like a day, then they don't have to pay the fee, I'm pretty sure. So it's more just to catch those people who want to check out Venice but aren't going to stick around for very long.
Because they aren't bringing anything much to the economy.
Yeah.
That's a clever idea. I would be very fine with paying that fee. And it's a beautiful place to see. Okay, so who made Venice's design? That's Ayan from BWPS. Do we know? Because it's quite... I mean, was it so long ago that we're not sure?
Well, that's a great question. I'm actually not too sure about where Venice's design came from.
I wonder if it was designed or if it was one of those things like you were saying where they were just refugees and they needed to just make a place really quickly to get away. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I suppose that's the way it goes with a lot of cities, really. A lot of older cities, they don't really get designed as such. They sort of sometimes just spring up and develop and change over time. But it's still a very good question.
Lots of different people design different buildings,
Parts
I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's probably what happened.
Okay, let's see. Sky from Clifton Hill Primary School, what will happen to the pizza?
To the pizza? Oh no,
that's a real worry. I'm with you, Sky.
I don't know what will happen to the pizza.
If there's flooding, what do you reckon, Nat?
Well, luckily, mainland
saltwater pizza. Delicious.
Oh no, the water's just jumped up again
a
little bit.
It was because I mentioned it. Water.
Well, luckily, Italy's not sinking. It's just Venice, even though Venice is a part of Italy. So the pizza is safe.
The pizza's safe. Safe on the mainland.
Yeah.
Don't stress, Sky. It's okay. Okay. Oh, you know what? Sky actually asked another question.
Okay.
Are any major buildings getting flooded?
Yes. So the big, I actually just forget the name off the top of my head, but I believe it's St. Mark's Square, the big one in Venice, and that's probably one of Venice's biggest tourist attractions, along with the cathedral right next to it. And both those get pretty badly flooded when an aqua alta rolls in. So
So they're right. That square is right near the water.
Yeah.
Right near the edge.
And so have you been there as well?
Yeah. I mean,
Ooh,
that honestly is the part you go to, and there's that beautiful church. Is that what you just said, too?
Yeah.
That beautiful church. I remember maybe not that long after I'd gone, I heard about that flooding, which was pretty disturbing because there's very, very old, like extremely old buildings. And churches and the square itself. So, you don't want these things to get damaged. There's lots of artwork. valuable artwork and stained glass windows and all sorts of amazing things. So there you go. So that's a key part that always gets flooded, and that's probably one of the most recognisable parts of Venice when you see those pictures is that square. So you might be able to picture that or some of you might have been. Okay, let's see. Hang on. Bear with me. Charlie from Girlang Primary School. Where did the tourists sleep in Venice?
The tourists? Well, Venice is sort of like many other cities. It actually does have hotels.
It does.
Where did you stay in Venice?
I stayed in a hotel.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I just like that question though, because I wonder if you're imagining because it's floating. I don't know.
Yeah. So Venice has hotels. It's sort of I guess that's where tourists stay.
But I wonder if the flooding gets higher, do you just stay in a higher hotel?
Yes, I guess so. I guess many hotels have more than one floor.
Just go up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What haven't we asked? Oh gosh, we've asked because we've got a few repeat questions. So let me see. Oh look, somebody else knew about Atlantis. Will Venice turn into the new Atlantis?
Ooh.
Aaron and Bo from Oxford Falls Grammar School.
I'm sure the people of Venice hope it doesn't.
I think they do. That water went up again.
Oh, it did it?
I didn't even notice. Oh no.
Go back down.
No. All right. So. Oh, did it go up again? Ah, no.
Cheeky.
Oh, we've only got a couple of minutes
down.
left, so I better hurry up. Sorry,
Okay.
I was too absorbed in things.
Wow, there we go.
Okay, Ben from Saltwater P9 College. How much warning do the people of Venice get before the flooding? Do they have a warning system?
Great question. Yes, they do. They have a siren. And from what I could find, the siren is activated sort of 3 to 4 hours before a big flood comes in. So they do have a pretty good warning, but if you can imagine, if you're still sleeping and a siren goes off and you don't hear it, you can definitely wake up in the middle of a flood. But 3 hours is the standard, I think, from when the siren goes off to when the flood hits, just because they get a good gauge of seeing that water roll in through the Adriatic Sea.
Oh, that's good that they can see.
Yeah, so
Quite
that's their
far
warning
in
system.
time. Okay, so do people have to leave? That's from Trusno from Campbell Primary School. If Venice was flooding, do people have to leave?
Depends. If Venice floods enough, maybe, I would leave probably just out of safety.
Yeah, if it flooded enough,
Yeah.
I think it might be the smartest thing to do. Okay, I have Letitia. Also from Campbell Primary School. You guys have asked
Lots of
great
Campbell
questions.
Primary School students today.
If a lot of people don't like the MOSA program, how come they're still installing the bridges, even though they might cost more than $10 billion?
Well,
hello.
That's such a good question. Hang
come
on.
in. Hello.
Now we have to share the couch.
Should we?
All right.
Oh, Jack's coming in this
Yeah,
side,
well-
so let's all squish in.
There's not enough room.
Hello.
There we go. There it is.
Okay.
Oh, hello there. Hello there, friends. Hang on. Let
What are
was
we
that
doing?
unless Matt wants to answer it, apparently.
Frivolous question?
No, Nat, you go for it.
Yes. So what was the question?
Oh, you guys. Jack, do you want to answer the question?
Sure. It's 47.
That's right.
What is it?
Okay,
It's not.
it's about the MOSA project. That's right. So
So if they're installing the bridges, why are they? How come they're installing the bridges even though they might cost more than $10 billion?
even though it's costing a lot of money at the moment, it's Venice's only hope. And unless we get some super intelligent engineers to come along, maybe one of you guys will have an awesome idea in the future and you'll be the ones to fix Venice. At the moment, the MOSA project's their only hope. And so they're obviously trying to do whatever they can to get it done and hope that it works.
And they've spent a lot of money on it already.
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
they? They've tried quite hard and wasted a bunch of it. And
I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Giant sponges.
Stop it.
Absorb
Are you
all
joking?
the
Because I was
water.
actually going to say, somebody said that. Charlie from Campbell Primary School
Another
can't
Campbell
put
Primary
sponges
the
around
same
Venice. We have had lots of questions from him. That is really funny. So there you go. Jack's on the same wavelength.
absorbent,
they not?
yellow and porous as
Oh, look. Yeah.
Anything's
Let's try
possible.
it.
You know what? We might need a few of those here because
Look at this water
it's
going
getting a
up.
little bit high, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go for a swim. Hey, can you swim? Do you know if you can? I don't actually know the question.
can
Even though
I
I've been.
swim?
No, shush, I haven't finished yet. Luca, can people swim when it's warm?
In Venice.
Clifton Hill Primary School.
You can probably swim if it's
Do you think
cold.
it's a bit dirty though? Like I don't know. I don't
great
know if you would
question.
swim around there.
It'd probably be dirty. What do you guys think?
Has anyone been?
Because I've been, but I've never seen anybody swimming around.
Was it dirty?
Oh, it's smelly.
Smelly.
We've talked a bit about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit smelly.
Okay.
It's still a great
Actually-
place, but it was around the canals, you smell it a bit more.
When St. Mark's Square flooded recently, there was footage of someone who actually decided to swim in St. Mark's Square.
Oh!
Yeah, pretty funny. It
That
was
is
like a massive
funny.
Olympic swimming pool for him. But I don't know if I'd do that.
Probably not the safest idea.
No,
but
no.
I'm
But
sure it was fun to watch, and I kind of want to see that.
Oh no, we've lost Matt.
We've lost Matt! Matt, no! Ah! He's
Lucky
okay.
I can swim.
He's
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks a million.
Well, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas for those who celebrate it. Happy holidays, because this is the last episode of Ask a Reporter ever. No, just jokes. Just this year. So we are off on holidays just like you guys. So thank you so much for joining us this whole year. It's been really good, hasn't it?
It's been really fun.
And Nat just killed it on his first Ask a Reporter.
Well done,
So
Nat.
well done. And we had a question from Nat's little brother Sam.
Oh,
in
that's so
Darwin.
cool.
Isn't that cool?
Were you able to answer it?
Yeah.
yeah, it was a tough question,
It was
though.
a good question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well done, Sam. Good
Oh, we better get out of here before we get flooded right out, before Matt goes under again.
Yeah.
But thank you so much again, and we really appreciate you guys watching BTN all year and being part of the show and part of Ask a Reporter and sending in so many questions all the time. It's really great, and we really appreciate it, and we love you guys so much. So thank you, and have great holidays.